What's shaking, everybody? My name is Ross Mandell. I'm coming to you guys live today from Delray Beach, Florida, Scott Willie Studios. I have a massive treat for you guys. You know, we talk about men, we talk about real men, and then every once in a while, you come across somebody that is a definition of a real man. His name is Rafa Conde. He started a business, a group. It's a mindset called Man of War. I had the privilege to be on his podcast at his magnificent studio here in Boca Raton, Florida. And now I got a chance to put him in my hot seat so you guys can all get to know who is Rafa, who is the Man of War. Well, he's right here. So excited to have you here, my brother.
Come on, man. You always bring the energy. I love it.
I'm so psyched. I can't explain it because if you weren't the Man of War, there's a good chance I would have been the Man of War.
You're a man of war.
But you beat
in
me
my
to
book.
it. I am. I'm a soldier.
Yes, you are.
I'm a good soldier, and
Yes,
I love everything that you stand for.
Thank you.
And I'm going to say this to you, which is a stunning thing. When we first met, and you were brought to me by my team, who had done some research on you, they seemed to know you, know of your group, what you do. Maybe they saw you on television. I don't know, social media. I did not. I had never heard of your movement. It's a movement to me. And when you took those steps initially, it was a hostile environment to some extent for real men. And it's been a hostile environment for real men. And I believe that's being done on purpose in America. That's my feeling. It's part of a plan. And I feel like the enemy has been winning up until now. And I was not familiar with Man of War and the things that you were doing. And I feel like if you're missing me, you're missing a lot of guys like me that would be entirely a part of, supportive of, fans of, etc. So I want to get an understanding today of everything. And because I'm not a great visionary, of limited intellect, so I like to roll the clock back and take it, take your story in a linear fashion.
Sure.
So if you don't mind me, how old a guy are you, Rafa?
55.
You don't have any gray hairs in that beard. Not one. Does he dye his beard, guys?
Oh, well, I think a little shampoo, a little color shampoo
Just for men
does
or
a little
something,
bit.
huh? I can't believe it. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, thank
I don't
you.
see any gray hairs on your head either, but I don't see any hairs at all.
No, I think I do pretty well for looking 55.
Unbelievable,
I do the
bro.
part.
Unbelievable.
Right,
Look like you just had a facial. I mean,
no facials,
perfect
no
skin.
Botox, nothing like that. But they've asked me though,
plastic surgery?
No, they ask me,
right.
you got Botox? No, I don't touch that.
Real
No,
men don't use Botox. I'm proud of my wrinkles.
You look great, man.
Thank you, my brother. So where were you born and raised? What was early life like?
Born in Miami,
Wow.
raised, of course, in the 70s. My parents came from Cuba in the late 50s. And it was a very different time back then in the 70s. And, my growing up basically was between Miami in my younger years. And then my father started practicing medicine. And at that time, the government gave the Cubans an opportunity to study medicine outside of the country. Spain opened the doors. Wow. So, we came from a family, very, very hard workers. So my dad jumped on a plane, took us to Spain, and I grew up between Miami and Seville, Spain.
Wow. See, I did not know this. This is great news.
For many years.
And so, I do know that there are medical schools now all over the place, right? Is that part of this movement?
Oh, yeah. Spain was huge for that. Their medicine still is considered one of the best in the world. At that time, it was, let me say this, I didn't have a lot of long-term friends, a lot of moving back and forth.
Yeah.
The school environment was very difficult. And it affected me in the way that we didn't settle down, It wasn't like but my father and my mother were incredible parents. I had my brothers. There was always unity wherever we went as a family.
As a family.
But when it came to friendships, a little bit tough.
Right. Not your fault. Wasn't
Mm-hmm.
your problem. It's just that you were really transient a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
But with your family.
Yeah.
That's really nice. So your mom and dad stayed together, or
Still married.
Beautiful.
They're both still alive. Actually, I was with them yesterday, and they're all about family. You know, the sense of connection. My father, he lives for his family. He lives for his sons, for his grandchildren, and the same thing with my mom. And it's incredible, you know. And I have my brothers are all. I mean, heck, my brother's down here is a major chiropractor right down here in the corner,
Oh, okay.
on Atlantic. And I have another brother who's a doctor, a physician, you know, down the road, and then another one here in Miami. So we are a very tight family, and I don't see that often nowadays.
it's a core value for you, and I understand why now, because you grew up with that example.
Yes. Father, the greatest example of a family man.
Mine too, but unfortunately he passed when I was 16, and then I went awry at that point. But
It's a tough age.
but that's a lovely story. It is tough on a young man,
Yeah.
like high school, or junior high school,
Yeah.
middle school. They call it, going around not having your core group and all that.
Totally. That's a 16 is just
Brutal.
yeah.
But if you have a good family, then you're getting what you need.
Yes.
As a young man.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You're getting it from that core family. and
Yes.
It's a value that seems to have stayed with you, and it's part of the man of war movement, sort of, isn't it?
It has stayed with me. It has stayed with my family. It's given me, I guess, for a lack of a better word, a very selective eye. You know, with my wife and my kids, and so. It's all about, for me, it's all about the connection, the synergy between a family. Now, we're not all perfect, okay? We disagree on a bunch of things, but we love each other, and we care deeply about each other, and we have each other's back, and that's something that I believe, with everything in me, really, that we are lacking in our current society.
Correct.
We don't have those values. They're very, very rare, and it's a shame.
America was built on those values, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
The country got soft. This is my opinion. And leadership has been, for lack of a better word, bribed, swayed
Yeah.
by other interests. And we're seeing the result on our headlines and all the nonsense that's going on. But you have created what I call common sense movement. I mean, it makes sense to me. That's the kind of man I am. Some people might look at you and say, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you wear a dress? You really want to?" People like that, in my opinion, living out their sexual fantasies and trying to put them on other people. I'm about personal freedom. Do whatever you want. I don't judge you.
Me too. Me too. Yeah.
Do whatever you want, but don't try and pitch me
That's exactly
your
right.
craziness.
Exactly right.
Don't try to tell me you're a woman.
Yeah.
I'm just like, just do whatever you want to do.
But Ross, listen, it's not even about selection or opinions. It's about mental health, man.
There's no question.
Okay, I mean, you just told me before we started the podcast that your transition over. It's like a different planet. People are speaking a different freaking language.
It's if you study what happened with Rome. I love looking at civilizations. I believe history 100% repeats itself, and Rome conquered the world. There was no army, no force, no group of fighting people that could topple Rome, even give Rome a concern. The only way Rome could be destroyed was from within. And I believe the same thing holds true for America. And I think that the foreign parties have found a way to soften us enough so that they can penetrate us. And then it's almost like a quiet takeover. I hate to say it. Some of the things that are going on right now are just beyond me. So you're a Florida kid, Miami. So I didn't know that. Have you been to Cuba?
Have not.
Not been to Cuba.
Something that I want to do before, hopefully in the next few years.
Because you are Cuban.
Well, I'm definitely Cuban.
Those are your roots, right?
That is my roots. I mean, I lived a Cuban lifestyle. I was raised in a very traditional Cuban household. My grandparents and my parents, and Of course, now, you're a little bit detached from that because, I've grown and, but for the most, but for the most part, the foundations, it's Cuban.
And the
without a
Cuban
doubt.
community was very strong at that point, right?
Listen, we had more doctors per capita. Miami now is not, I was just there a few days ago and I made a video about it and it went viral. Miami is not what it was 25, 35, 40, 50 years ago.
No.
It is not. It is now a place where you just have a whole bunch of like mixed junk in there. And I hate to say it because it's my city, it's my pride, but it's just too much going on, and there's a lot of I don't know. There's just bad seeds in that city.
Boy, oh boy, I know it, but to hear you put it into words, because I feel like Miami is part of my city. I grew up on Long Island, New York, and our family would come down to Florida twice a year, every year, and then as I became even a teen, my mother remarried. I became. Now they had property in Miami. They lived in Miami half the year. I'd come down here in the summers and Christmas break, and Miami was like my playground. I loved it, and my grandparents had a place in Miami, even though they're from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I would hear the stories about Miami and how the Jews came, and how and then it's my understanding that the Cubans came, in sort of size, if you will, and I was in prison in Miami. So I've done that whole scene in Miami. I've been in Miami FCI. I've been in the Miami camp. I've been in the Miami detention center.
Yeah.
I've been in all the county jails between here and Miami because they wanted to run me around. They call it diesel therapy. And there's a huge Cuban influence in prison. I mean, they call them cars, but the Cuban car is very... And it's funny because most of the people that I became friendly with while I was inside. And I taught, stock market things and business things.
Sure.
And my friends outside, after I left prison, the people that are mostly in touch with me, Cuban.
Nice.
It's very interesting. I mean, it's
they're
some sort of
good-hearted-
kinship.
Listen, they're good-hearted people, They're good-hearted people.
Tough
and,
people.
Yes, hardworking. I mean, I came, my family came from, especially my mom's side, like my grandmother and my grandfather. I mean, they were big into the sugar cane. They were in millions and millions of dollars, right?
Wow.
And, they left it all behind. And they came here, and my grandmother started working in a factory,
Right.
with clothing and stamping clothing, and then my grandfather became, he started working in the electricity and then in the car world, and it was to me it was like, wow, you see where they come from. He was a director of Ford in my grandfather in Cuba, to come down here and just give up everything, start over.
Listen, my family came from Europe, and they were business people. And my great-grandfather was selling pencils on the city streets, Lower East Side, for a penny.
Yeah.
Every day, 7 days a week. Yeah. My great-grandfather, I'm from a very hardworking family. There were big shots in Europe, in Russia, the Ukrainians. They had to leave everything behind. Oh. And they started fresh, and they were, learned and skilled, but just hardworking. And then they come to this. So it's like a similar story to the Jews coming.
Sure.
And the Cubans. Maybe that's where some of my, because I didn't intentionally do anything that way. I gravitate towards people that, are sort of more like-minded. The guys that worked out and played sports, and the guys that wanted to learn and improve. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's in life, what you start seeing is those who come here and start working like that, and who give their entire life for their families. They're if you look at life the way it was 30, 40, 50 years ago, there was these values that we don't have anymore.
Core values.
It's nowadays, I mean, sure, there may be some people that do it, but very, very rare do you find that hard-working individual that's doing it because of his core values.
It's really frightening to me. And we're going to see what happens, but it's like the softening of America. They're becoming soft, and
without a doubt.
And you know, soft people create hard times.
Yep.
Hard times create strong people, and strong people create good times, and that's like the whole cycle that just keeps going on and on. But tell me about you. What kind of a kid were you?
I was a very, I was kind of like, I don't want to say the black sheep, but I was a kid that I wanted to focus. First of all, school to me was like a nothing. I wasn't interested in school.
Really?
I didn't give a crap. I dropped out of high school. I got my GED. It wasn't a thing. Like for school for me, I had no interest. I wanted, for me, my life at that young age was training in the martial arts, studying the martial arts, understanding the philosophy, learning how to fight, learning how to be disciplined. When I was 12, 13 years old, that was it. Martial arts was everything to me. Bruce Lee was a huge mentor for me. I followed that lifestyle. I started studying the samurai. I started studying all these warrior cultures like the Knights Templar, the Spartans, and reading up on what type of men they were, the discipline, how they went into battle, how they lived their lives. And then, of course, I started training heavily in the martial arts, and that just became, I lived to train.
Which martial arts were you?
Well, first I was in judo.
Okay,
that was
great martial art.
Yeah, judo was my base. Then I went into Hok Lung Kung Fu, which is a southern style of Chinese Kung Fu. Then I started training some different aspects like Filipino martial arts and JKD and things like that. And then I went into Aikido, and I trained Aikido for over 15 years.
Wow.
And Aikido was
it's like the Steven Seagal practices.
That's right. A lot of people think that it's a soft start or whatever, but I will tell you that Aikido helped me as a police officer more than any other martial arts.
Hand to hand. It's just it's so practical.
Yeah. And and then I trained different knife fighting styles, and it was just a constant learning and assimilating all this. I just wanted, my goal was to really study the warrior's mind. And then I started studying Zen, Zen Buddhism for a very long time. I mean, I remember, Roshi, which is one of the first North American men to be allowed in a monastery in Japan as a monk, and I trained under him.
Wow.
And that was a very powerful experience. I was literally just a few weeks away from being ordained as a monk, but I stopped because my Christian values, like I felt like, okay.
Conflict.
A little bit. Because in reality, the techniques of sitting in meditation and Zen, and there's no conflict whatsoever.
Not with that, but.
Right. But when you started going in a little bit deeper,
Correct.
I decided to disconnect myself from it. But I've taken the techniques and the strategies and the philosophies and used that throughout my entire life.
Huge benefits.
Humongous.
Huge benefits.
I can't even begin, because even back then there were Catholic priests and nuns who practiced Zen meditation.
Of course.
Going back to the old days of Alan Watts.
Of course,
and those
I
guys.
get. No, I very well. I get it. How old were you when you were doing this?
I started at 12, 13, and then when I started really studying that, I was around 20 years old, 21.
I mean, this is a great argument against the Department of Education and all that, because in high school you would have learned nothing. Nothing. College, you would have learned how to bong in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How to put away a case of beer.
That's it.
I mean, by yourself and burp.
That's it.
And, it's interesting that you were able to identify these. I was also very similar to you as a young man. Bruce Lee was my hero. And I studied, I was a wrestler. So I studied a lot of things related to that, and then eventually got into MMA and all that. But I was just my family pressed me in school.
Yeah.
I was told that anything under an A is unacceptable. Unacceptable. So even when I to this day, I'm 68 and I'm in the gym. The other day, I'm putting myself through these 30-minute routines. And trying to get myself, back to a level of respectable fitness. And I'm going and I'm looking in the watch and I see 27 minutes and I say, okay, now I have an A minus because 27 is 90%
Yeah, you have high standards.
of 30. And I said, no, I'm going to get I have to complete the 30 minutes, but I make it very difficult for myself. The last 10 minutes is brutal. But to make a long story short, you saw this was part of Rafa's, young Rafa, mindset. You weren't pressured to do well in school and high school. Your parents, they
pressured
medical
they pressured me. My father was a doctor. He goes study.
Right.
I felt the pressure, but my attitude was like, listen, I'm not interested. I'm not learning. It wasn't challenging for me.
I get it. Stupid.
Yeah, that's the way that I looked at it. And at 13 years old, I started reading. And when I say reading, I mean reading every night. And I've never, and I say this, and I've said this in my book several times, I've never, ever missed a day that I don't read at night when I'm going to bed. That is a mandatory non-negotiable for me. I read 5 to 7 pages of a book. I read at least a book and a half to 2 books a month. Full books from the beginning to the end.
I love it.
And I have a library of, you go to my house, thousands of books. I love books. I go to old bookstores now. It used to be my favorite around 20 years old. If you told me go anywhere, and I'll say number one place, take me to an old bookstore.
Whatever city you're in.
Doesn't matter. To go in there, search for old books, regarding philosophy, martial arts, business, whatever. Wow, man. I love that.
What's the last book you read?
I just finished reading now a book called The Tales of King David, because I'm studying deeply into King David's life.
I love it.
And
we have so much similarity. It's crazy. Yeah. Do you know what I say now? I say now to people that I mentor, and I usually say at the end of every podcast, no, I can't do it. I say when God wanted to anoint David, the king of Israel, he didn't send him the crown. He sent him Goliath.
Yes.
That's how my Creator thinks.
That's right.
He sent him Goliath. And so, people that are facing big obstacles in their lives, I point that out to them. That's your crown.
Yes.
You understand the metaphor.
Of course.
And so the fact that you just brought this up, because this is my newest thing.
Really?
You can just go look at the footage of my last 6 podcasts, for real. Because somehow it always comes up, what's your biggest challenge? We're going to get there. Yeah. What challenges are you facing? I know you've accomplished a lot, and I want to get to all of that. But men like us always look forward to the next challenge. I can't explain why. I don't know why. I'm 68. Just did a lot of time in the federal system. I'm now done, and I have a great family, a nice life. And people are saying, "So what are you doing? What are you doing? Just take it easy." Yeah. And it's just not my thing. Like easy does it is my philosophy, because men like me don't ever take it easy. Easy does it.
That's a great mindset, though. I tell people this.
I'm questioning myself because so many people are pressuring me.
No. Listen, I said I'm never going to retire. I am going to die fighting my best fight. But you know what happens? Men who have your type of mindset, you're going to live for a very, very long time. The men who sit around and say, I'm going to retire, I'm going to be comfortable, I'm going to take it easy. The moment you do that, guess what happens? Your life starts fading away little by little.
You start dying.
You start operating at a very low level.
I agree.
So no, you keep up with the energy that you have and keep on pushing. I've met men in their 80s who are driven, ambitious, and really who, if you put them next to a 25-year-old now, they will outdo them, outthink them any day of the week.
Young men are so soft, Rafa.
Oh.
I can't even explain to you how I run into so many lovely young men, and they just, I don't know what went wrong. I'm this is why mentorship is so important, because I know that I didn't have a father as a young man. He passed when I was 16. And a lot of men that came into my life were very agenda-driven. They didn't really care for Ross. They did appear to. It seems they said, I love you, this and that.
Sure.
But, you can't get that love like you get from a dad. Like they say that your father is the only man in the world that wishes you to become more successful and greater than him. That only holds true from a father. That's very interesting to me. But our similarities are just stunning to me. Even
We're
in ways
a lot alike, man.
In ways you don't know.
Yeah.
But you're a very serious guy, and I love that about you. So you're now studying martial arts. Essentially, I understand there's a lot of philosophy. This is how I see it around the martial arts.
Oh, yes.
It's
Very much so.
It's a lifestyle. The word discipline. The discipline, non-negotiable ritual you have at night. I love that. There are certain things I also have, non-negotiable. I don't even discuss it with anybody. So I'm not interested. Right? This is who I am. Yeah. So you're now, let's just say, in your 20s, 20 years old. Did you leave home? When did you start going into business, earning money yourself? I know you went to the market at one point.
Yeah. I mean, 9/11 happened. Let me kind of backtrack. It was in the early to mid 90s. I made a transition. I had a family friend come in and say, "Hey, I'm a stockbroker. Why don't you come over and see what we have going on?" So I went into a firm with him, it was a big firm, and I remember walking in and looking, and it's like a football field. I see a bunch of different desks, people standing up and pitching on the phone, moving around. I was
good energy.
Yeah, like, what is this? This is pretty cool. All the guys suited up to a T, and then I walk into a back office, huge glass office, right? And I walk in, and there are two Italian guys sitting there, and they say, "Come on in, sit down." And they said, the first thing that they asked me is, "Do you want to make $1 million?" And I go, well, my answer to them was, "That's a stupid question asking a young man like me."
Right.
Okay, obviously. And then they started laughing, and they go, "Well, there's some guys that come here and they say, well, they don't think they can reach it. We need confident men here," right? So I'm like looking at them, and I go, "Listen, I just walked through a football field maze of men. I saw what you got out there. I go, I can handle myself here. I'll be a good player, but I kind of need to know the job."
I love it.
And then he goes out there and he stands up, points at the parking lot, right? And there's literally like 20 different cars, all of them, Porsches, Mercedes, Ferraris, parked.
Elite cars.
Yeah, and he goes, "How about driving one of those?" And I go, "Yeah."
Another trick question.
"Of course I do. What do you need from me?" And then he kind of broke down the business model, how it works. It was basically a chop house at that time,
This particular place.
Oh,
right?
yeah, it was a chop house.
Right.
It was one of those chop houses where a boiler room where you're just, But I learned so much there in the 4 months that I was there, that I tell you that even to this day, it has helped me be an incredible salesman. It has helped me step up my game. One of the guys, the floor guys, the managers, or whatever you call them, they would come around, and if I was pitching on the phone like this, sitting down, they would kick the chair from under me.
Get up.
Get up. We don't ever pitch sitting down. I learned that, right?
Yep.
Creative. Even today, that's the way I teach. Never pitch sitting down. Another philosophy was like, we were so focused on accomplishing the task at hand, that everything was all the details, how you spoke, your tonality, the way that you delivered your message, right? And then, of course, we would always say, don't pitch the bitch, right? That was a popular thing. Don't ever go with women. Women are undecisive, whatever it is, indecisive. And, that's what you were taught there.
I understand. I get it.
This is a man's world. Like you were, and these kids, because that's what they were, 20, 21,
Correct.
22, 23 years old. A lot of them, honestly, they were either dropouts from schools or whatever it is, but they were out there, they were working, they were doing their thing, and they were, making a shitload of money, frankly.
Right. Most of them didn't even realize they were in a chop house.
No.
See, I didn't understand when I was young. No. I just thought this is a licensed firm, member of the New York Stock Exchange, all the fancy stuff, and they said, here's what we're doing, and this is why, and I didn't question. I'm a good soldier.
Yeah.
And so I was able to soldier through a lot of bullshit. I hate to say it. I look back and think about some of the issues that I have in life today still follow you because I was a soldier in a wrong army. I listened to a general that didn't really have it all, didn't have a great understanding. It's one thing to make money, but what does that mean? We're gonna knock off an armored car? I mean, to get $1 million. You know what I'm saying? I mean, of course I want to have $1 million. What do you mean? Of course I want to drive a Porsche, a Ferrari, a Mercedes. Of course. Yeah. What do I have to do? Yeah. I just was so focused on accomplishing. I didn't question enough. And I didn't know enough.
You were so task-driven and so purpose-driven.
I live in the present. They said, needing me to do 100,000 shares of this. I'm doing it. I got that reputation. I was like a go-to kind of person. I'm still like that in an odd way. I'm doing sometimes 4 or 5 podcasts a week. I mean, it's like...
You're a go-getter, man.
But when I'm not doing something, I beat myself up.
But you're wired differently, man. That's what it is. You're wired differently.
That's how I am, right. And I've always been like that.
Not every man is going to be wired like that. As a matter of fact, a lot of men, they start off at 100 miles an hour. You give them 20 minutes, and they're at 20 miles an hour.
They're dead. They're done, yeah. They have no stick-to-itiveness. It's a word I create.
Sustainability.
Sustainability is a better word.
Like the fact that you're able to do it over and over and over again. You have consistency. You built it, but that's a lot of self-discipline on your part. You just go out there and you hunt.
Yeah, I don't think about it. That's the funny thing. People are like, you're really pushing yourself. You're doing all these different things, and I'm gonna be honest. I feel like I'll be honest to the camera right now. I feel like I'm dogging it half the time. Yeah. Because I'm used to much more work, but I just don't do that. I'm not just sitting there making 300 calls a day. Yeah. But some days I'm on the phone 8, 10 straight hours, and people are like, "How do you know this guy? We're just talking. We're meeting." I use the phone. To me, it's a great tool.
Another thing. Proximity. People don't value that anymore. I love the fact that you're close to me here.
I do too.
I could shake your hands. I could, come visit you.
Share our presence, correct. Yeah. There's so much to that.
But other people don't get it.
They don't get
it. Everything is online, through DMs or Zoom or whatever the hell it is.
Text. It's unbelievable.
I can't stress enough to anyone that's hearing this right now or watching this how important proximity is across the board. Like for me to be close to someone like that, it's 100 times better than just talking in Zoom.
You can we feel each other's energy.
Yeah.
From the moment I saw you, I was excited.
Yeah, man.
And I get it. You can't really measure somebody until you're in their presence.
Yeah, I agree. I'm
actually going out of my way June 5th and 6th just to meet somebody. Something I never do, but it's somebody that I'm really getting to know. Yeah. And she's going to be in town. She's speaking at an event, and I'm actually going to go to an event. Well, okay. I'm invited to some. But I only just want to go to see this one woman speak and see what her energy is in person, if it's real.
That's great.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, but that's how.
That's a beautiful thing.
That's a similar thread that we have. Mm-hmm. I'm going to steal that word from you, proximity, because that really sums up a lot. Oh. Because when you can have someone in the studio, or be in someone's studio, versus this remote stuff, it's not the same.
No, it's not.
It's just not the same. And I now understand proximity in life. I have like virtual friendships now.
Yeah.
You never met these people, and we know each other like.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a very common thing. I mean, look at dating. Everything is done through these ridiculous apps and whatever. Men don't have the balls to go up to a woman now and talk to her in a bar or in a bookstore. Right. They don't have the balls to do that.
Most men.
Yeah, most men.
Yeah, I enjoy those encounters. Because it's just, and I actually had to say to a woman recently, am I being too forward? Am I infringing on you? And all I do is call her on the phone. It's like when I call people today, they're like, is everything okay? Mm-hmm. And I say, yeah, why? He goes, because you're calling me.
Yeah.
I said, what does that mean? Well, everybody does text. So I asked a woman who is a high-value woman, who is all about mentorship and getting more. She makes about $250 working for a Fortune 16 company. Mm-hmm. And she said, yes, it's a little invasive. She's like, I'm not joking.
Really?
I swear to you.
Wow.
She's a very attractive type woman, and like I just call her, and sometimes I feel like I ask, am I impinging on you?
Yeah.
Because that's my training.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then I say I feel bad. I don't really feel bad, but then I know better. I'll stop calling her. I'll call less, or
Yeah. People get offended when you actually call someone.
They think something's wrong.
Really? I find that it's very confusing.
God forbid you knock on someone's door to visit someone. Remember when we were kids growing up, my neighbors would just come in and knock on.
Yeah,
Today, you hear a knock at the door, you're like, oh, what the hell? People are frightened by it. You don't just stop by anymore. You have to call and all that. All right, so now you discover this stock market essentially, but really it's sales training, right? Advanced sales training, and the training is amazing in that business.
It's phenomenal.
There's nothing like that anywhere.
I'll tell you that it doesn't. I mean, you go back to the old, Goldman Sachs and that world of where they start like Lehman Brothers and the whole book with the pitches.
Correct.
And, I think we talked about that
the
last
Bible,
time.
Right.
I believe that still works.
It does work
in this world. A lot of people will say no. A lot of bullshit guru salesmen will say no, it doesn't work. Okay,
of course it works.
It works. We as human beings, we haven't changed that psychology inside of us, right?
No.
We're still the same people that we were 50, 60 years ago. Now, sure, maybe we have grown in different aspects, but for the most part, it's what they were teaching there, especially, was getting down to the foundation of a human being, connecting, correct, and then putting them in a spot where the only logical step for them to do is say, yes, let's
correct,
do this.
We there's only so many objections, a lot, but it's not infinite. It's a finite. Mm-hmm. And over the years, salesmen compiled this book called the Lehman Book.
I never forget that
and
book.
And you could overcome every objection. Everything that you guys are going to object to, it's in the book, and there's like 5 or 6 ways to respond as a very clever salesperson. And it's appropriate stuff, too. Yeah. It's like appropriate things. And, I sort of live my life by that book. So now what happens because I know you're going to make a real pivot soon in life, and I want to get to that because to me it's a remarkable pivot to come from that training, that little world. Tell us what happened.
So, I left the firm. About a month later, the FBI raided the firm, but I left a month before. I actually went to work for a reputable firm.
Okay.
Then
a reputable brokerage firm.
Right. And then from there, I went under Gunn Allen, and I had an independent firm. I had about 13, 14 brokers under me. A couple of it.
Your firm? An OSJ, right?
Yeah.
You're an OSJ.
Yeah. So I basically had a beautiful team, great guys, some great assistants that helped out. And we managed over $1 billion, and
it's real money,
But it was all active trading. A lot of people don't really understand that there's a big difference between being a financial consultant and an active trader.
100%.
So we moved the needle. I mean, we moved the needle, and we did this. Now we did it for over a decade. And,
I didn't know that. Over 10 years.
Oh yeah. I was a broker for about 13 years.
What a story.
And I worked myself up, and had about 600,000 under management, 600 million under management. At that time, 600 million is like 1.2 billion now.
I would say more. I would say closer to 3 billion, but
it's
real money.
Yeah, real money, active trading. And
interesting.
I grew my book. We did very, very well for a whole bunch of years. And then something hit me. Then 9/11 happened. And I started seeing the police officers and the firemen. It was an unbelievable shift in mindset. Yeah. It was like, I'm here, I'm trading stock, I'm living a great life, but have I really pushed myself? Have I challenged myself? Have I gone out there and served? What is my purpose? right? And I sat down and I started thinking about it. And I had one of my cousins. I looked up to him because he was a police officer. He was Miami, city of Miami, and then he was in the FBI task force, and that's where he did most of his years. He worked undercover and all that. I thought it was really, really cool.
It is cool.
And I was like, man, one day I would love to do that. But inside of me, I always had, see, when I went, one thing I didn't tell you, the reason why I went to the stock market was because I thought that it could help me get better as a warrior-minded man. And you asked me why. I'll tell you. I started studying the charts, understanding how to buy stocks, understanding every fundamental, okay, for every company, all the breakouts, all the resistance levels on stocks.
All the technical bits.
All the technical analytics, And that I felt like, wow. And there were books written back then, Warrior,
Correct.
Trader, whatever it was. So that, I gravitated towards that. But then, I sat down and I remember
And you're making money now.
Oh, yeah,
You're making some real money.
Yeah, I was making about $650, $700 a year.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, now it's probably a little bit over $1 million or more, but it was believe me, it was.
And you're living in Miami.
Yeah, I'm living. Actually, at that time, I am living in. I'm living here in Boca. I'm already living here in Boca. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I'm living
So
here in Boca.
You've got what a life.
Yeah, I'm living here, driving beautiful cars, living in a beautiful country club, doing all the good things.
Are you married yet?
No, I had just. So I went through a divorce, okay, and through that time I was married, and then I got divorced. When I got remarried, I was still a broker with my current wife of 21 years, and I was a broker. And then 1 year into it, and we had a little baby. He was on the way, and I sit across from my wife. She's pregnant, and I say, "Listen, what I'm about to tell you is you're probably not going to love it."
I've lost my mind.
Okay, but this is the deal. I want to do something more powerful. I want to do something that I can serve, and I know it's not going to be easy for us, but. That's basically, when you translate it, I'm going from $650,000 a year to making $38,000 a year.
And not just that, it's more of a high-risk business.
Oh.
And now that you're father and all that, I mean,
boy.
But 9/11 was a real shift for a lot of people. I get it. I understand.
Shift in mind. So finally she said, okay, I'm with you all the way. It took me a little bit over a year to get hired. And I was still a broker for the first year and a half as a cop because I still was able to manage my book.
Really?
On the side, yeah.
Really? That's cool.
First year and a half.
So tell us about so you started to interview, because I heard this story when I was on your podcast.
Man,
but
boy.
that to me, I was a little fascinated because it wasn't like you had a job waiting for you, and like your cousin said, "I got you. You're going to come in academies."
No, it wasn't anything like that.
Share this with us, because you really.
Well, I mean, going through the interview process was.
It shows who you are.
It was one of the most difficult challenges, really, of my life. If I really were to break it down, because I was on this high horse, running and gunning and leading people and making a shitload of money.
You are a high horse. You're not acting like one. You were the man.
And then all of a sudden, I'm going into these interviews and they're rejecting me because of my driving record. Or because of my credit score, my credit score, you got too many open bank cards, you got too much this, whatever. Oh man, they were rejecting me left and right. So every time I would put into a department, I would go through the interview process. I would either fail the psychological, I would fail the polygraph test, one or the other. Or I even got as far sometimes as sitting in front of the chief, and he looks at my record and says, "You got a lot of driving tickets." I had my license suspended a couple of times. As a young guy, whatever.
Like every young broker, I hate to say.
So finally, I just kept on going.
Now, hold on. I just want the audience to understand. You're not trying to come in as like the lead FBI agent on a task force.
Mm-mm.
You're just being hired as a cop.
As a cop in a city.
A city cop,
yeah.
And you're still having all these difficulties.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was very.
It's amazing to me.
It was very, very difficult, As a matter of fact, I can tell you one, and for Broward Sheriff's Office, I remember going through the polygraph, and this woman, which one day I'll meet her again, because I'm always going to remember this chick.
I love this.
Okay, and she sits down and she asks me questions like, "Have you ever drank and then driven?" Right, so alcohol and then
Right.
operated a car. The question was posed like that, right? So me not knowing how to really deal with these particular questions, they tell you to be as honest, be honest, be honest, be honest.
Right.
Everything you answer, right? So she asked me that question, and the next thing is I'm thinking, well, hell, last New Year's Eve we went out to a restaurant. I had a couple of glasses of wine, and then I drove an hour later. So that's a true, whatever.
Correct.
I wasn't drunk. I wasn't whatever.
Correct.
So I said, yeah. Well, she left the room and she came back about 10 minutes later and she goes, all right, you failed. You can leave. Just like that. Before we even started the polygraph test. So I'm pissed off, man. I was so discouraged. I never forget that. And a few weeks later,
Because you said yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't say I drove drunk.
No. I went through, it was 9 police departments.
Oh, my
all
gosh.
through South Florida, 9 police departments. No. There was a couple of them that remained open, that didn't say no. They were just, they hadn't answered me back. So one of them was considered one of the most violent cities in the entire country, which is down the road, Riviera Beach. Okay.
If you watch the local news, someone's always getting shot, stabbed, killed, raped.
Yeah, nowadays is nothing compared to when I
But
came
I'm saying,
up. Yeah.
I said to my wife at the time, I said, "What's going on in this Riviera Beach? What the hell?" Because it's not too far away, and they're killing each other.
It's
Like every single night.
different fucking planet. I can't even. But listen, they called me. They said, "Hey, we're gonna hire you. You start the police academy." They called me on a Friday. You start on a Monday. I'm like, wait. Usually they'll give you a month time to get your stuff.
Yeah.
You have to go to to this store, pick up your uniform for the police academy. You got to do that today. I'm like, wait, what? What just happened? I don't even know what just happened. So I remember going, and then right there, on Monday. So police academy has changed a lot. Let me tell you a little bit about the police academy. When I came up, we had the DI, drill instructors, all waiting for us that morning in our police academy. And they kicked the living crap out of us. We had a bunch of guys just quit.
In the beginning?
Yeah, they kicked the living crap out of us for an entire day. Just, DIs, boom, boom, boom. That was the initiation of the police academy. We had people, pissing blood and throwing up.
Oh, my
So
God.
let me say this. Our group, our class, and I forget the number of the class that we were. The next class was the first class that did not have that because they stopped the DIs in our class. We were the last class to have DIs. And I remember the police academy was, I loved it. I loved every part of it. I loved it.
Well,
but
you were pretty fit.
I didn't
You've been
like
training
it.
your whole life, really.
I didn't like it. Yeah, I was in good shape. I didn't like the fact that the police department hadn't paid me for months and months. I was going there basically, and they hadn't paid me because I needed to get in the payroll, and it took a while. And they're like, I don't know, man. It was looking back now. It's like,
is this
wow.
$38,000 to go into the academy?
$34,700 to go in the police academy, and then $38,000 to once you start.
It's not bad for starting, but you think you'd get a bigger bump.
It was bad coming from $650.
I can't even. I can't even.
It was bad considering that my bills alone.
I can't even. You had overhead now. The whole thing.
So and a new baby. That was just born by then. But the thing is, I needed to do something, and I knew that was going to be part of my journey. I knew that cycle in my life was eventually it's going to catapult me to a different cycle in my life, to a different season.
How long is the academy?
6 months.
So for 6 months, you have to study to be a policeman. And I'm sure not everybody passes, right?
No,
People
no.
start dropping out,
Yeah,
right?
people drop out, but it's that, and then you have another 12 weeks, another 3 months of field training when you come in the police department. So sometimes it's 16 weeks.
You're like a probationer?
Yeah, you have to ride with another officer that's a field trainer, and then they teach you the ropes, they teach you everything, and then you get released on your own.
Your own car as a policeman, driving around by yourself without a partner?
After you do
after that.
After
but even
4
then,
months.
I still think you're probably not really ready.
No, you're a rookie. You're somebody that doesn't
Right.
even really understand the streets
Correct.
until, you know. But I taught in the police academy. Well, let's just, continuing the story.
Yeah.
It was, I graduated. I got a defensive tactics award. It was a beautiful thing. I was super excited. I knew that this was going to be a huge part of my life. The problem was that things started to fall apart in my life. Repossessed cars, foreclosure on a home, and I mean foreclosure of the nastiness of the biggest loophole that there was in existence back then. The bank screwed us. Our club screwed us. They went in, they took the house from under us, and they literally pulled me and my family out of the house. Like literally. And they said within 24 hours you got to get out. Like they came in.
Oh my God.
It was a very, very difficult experience. Very difficult. And I felt selfish. I felt I'm doing this for my own. Why didn't I just stay where I was and continue making the money?
Right.
And then people ask me, well, didn't you save money, right? And I go, yeah, I mean, we saved a certain amount of money, but when your lifestyle, you bump up at a young age, you're living the lifestyle. You're living it.
No matter how much you earn,
Yeah.
no matter how much your weekly check is, your lifestyle will ultimately catch up to that. You're not going to save or build equity.
That is correct.
Living. I don't care if you're making $34,000 as a cop, or you're making $100,000 a month.
Yeah.
You live in a better house, in a better neighborhood, better cars, better clothes, better meals, better vacations. You have to make equity somewhere.
That's right.
And stash that.
That's right.
That's my life story, so I get that.
Yeah. So, that was a tough position.
Wow.
And I remember, when...
And now you're a police officer.
Well, at that point when they did that, yes, I was a police officer.
And they're doing this to a police officer.
Let me put it to you this way. They came to my house, the Boca Police Department, okay, which, by the way, and I'll say this openly, whoever the sergeant was, okay, I'll never forget that guy, okay, because I know I've been in the other shoe, and I've the way that certain things were done.
Correct.
This guy, he snuck into my because you can't come into private property, right? As one of those repo guys, but they're all dirty. They're all dirty. All dirty. They're all
corrupt.
Whatever. You can sing me a song. And these guys snuck into my into the where we were, the club.
Your gated community.
My gated community. And they came in and they took it right from my garage. My car was parked on my on my property.
Unbelievable.
They're not supposed to do
Trespassing.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So they get there, I call them and they get there, they're like, "Oh no, whatever." And they let them take my car. Okay, cool. Listen, I get it. I was behind 3 payments. It was tough. It was it was a horrible time in my life, embarrassing.
Just ugly.
Considering that I was a cop.
I can't even. That's that part.
And it was just not look, I've been in those shoes, and I would have stopped and I would have said, "Look, this guy got in. He did it illegally. I would have cited the repo man, and that car is going to get off that hook." You can unhook the car. A lot of people say once a car is hooked, blah, 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 blah. No, bullshit. You're still in private property, okay? So, anyways, a lot of turbulent times. I had another car repossessed from my wife while she had the baby, and she was walking out of freaking Starbucks getting coffee. The car, she walks out, honey, she calls me. I'm on the job. I'm patrolling. She says, they stole my car. And I already knew. I'm like...
Right.
They didn't steal my car. They repoed her car. Those 2 cars were repoed. They foreclosed on my house. Wow. It was a time in my life This was about 20 years ago.
Maybe 2005.
Yeah, right about there. Time in my life where I don't ever want to. How about this? I don't want to remember it like that, but it's helped me, and it's hooked me, because I know that I will never go back there.
It triggers you,
no
motivates
matter
you, right?
what. Yes,
I get it.
Okay, so what I did to help my family and get back on my feet and everything, I started, my entrepreneur spirit kicked in. So I was able to make contact with different people, and one person reached out to me from Peru and brought me in to start teaching. I had gotten certified as a firearms instructor by the NRA. Had certified instructor by the police department, by criminal justice standards. Then I was selected to the SWAT team. And then I was selected to be part of the narcotics team. So all this knowledge that I had, I started going out there and teaching. Then I became a police academy instructor.
Who were you teaching, if you don't mind me asking?
So I first got on with the police to the police academy. I was a police academy instructor for 10 years, for a whole entire decade.
This is after you obviously finished and went into the field.
2 years after I was 1 year and a half after being like on my own, cut loose, I became a police academy instructor.
Now this is before the undercover work, or
before?
Okay.
So I was
Wow, that's pretty quick. You go from the academy, you're a trainee to
but I had good people knew me. I had a lot of training coming in, especially from a martial arts perspective.
Correct.
So
you had the right mindset to begin with.
Oh yeah, so they wanted me there. They told me I want you to be an instructor. So
I get it.
I taught that. I taught firearms. So I used that knowledge. Then they said, "Hey, come to Peru. Come teach the SWAT teams here. Come teach the military.
Wow,
come teach," because my hand-to-hand combat experience and firearms. So I was able to link in and get some contracts in Peru.
Wow.
And I was literally traveling to Peru every 3 months. I was in Peru. Yeah.
While you were a cop.
I did that for about 7 or 8 years.
To supplement your income.
Supplement my income. So all my off time, in other words, any vacation time.
You were doing that.
I was doing that.
And that serves almost as it actually becomes like a brick in the man of war concept. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
That's almost where it was born.
Yeah.
Out of that sort of necessity.
Yeah, because
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I needed to scramble and I needed to figure a way.
I understand.
So when men come and tell me there's no way you can figure out, I'm like,
there's always a way.
Listen, man, there's always a way.
I'm in the solution business. That's what I say. Yep. I get it.
So I started the podcast in 2016, and I remember working midnights and working very late, doing undercover. I was.
You started your podcast when you were a police officer?
Oh, what? Yeah.
I didn't know. That's crazy, bro.
Yeah. I would literally be working undercover cases, and I would get home, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I would be scheduling my podcast and speaking to people in California, bringing them on at 10 o'clock at night.
What kind of guests did you have at that point? Is this before Man of War?
This is called the Man of War podcast.
Oh, okay. So you had the Man of War
podcast.
Gave birth all those years ago.
If you go back to I had Navy SEALs on. I had a whole really, really high level dudes that gave me an opportunity for me to interview them. They saw what I was doing.
Understood.
And they were like, yeah, man, guys.
You're going to elevate them.
Oh, yeah, yes. Guys that listen, I had Patrick Bet-David on before he became
Patrick Bet-David,
right. And I had guys on that were at a very high level that are now, whatever, they gave me an opportunity when I was first starting. So,
but you also gave them an opportunity.
Well,
you created a platform.
I did.
You didn't take shots at them.
I did, and we were doing damn good because we were in society and new and noteworthy for 8 weeks. That's the most you could stay at that time on a podcast. So we did very well. Now, kind of backtracking, I was selected to be part of the Multi-Agency Diversion Task Force, which was a task force when the opiate craze happened here. I worked undercover there for a bunch of years. Then I was selected to be part of the Tactical Diversion Squad with DEA. and I was part of DEA for a bunch of years, and then just like all those years, most of my career was assigned to a task force, narcotics task force. That was everything that I did. Then my last few years, I was a field training officer, and I worked hostage negotiations, and I kind of like tailored down my career because Man of War started 3 years before I retired. So what happened was this: I was in the police academy one day, and I look left and I look right, and I'm like, these young men that are coming here, we're supposed to teach them how to survive on the street.
Correct.
But they are, first of all, weak beta males who you can't even, they're just soft.
They're soft.
And I started looking at the women, and the women are much tougher than the guys.
Women are much tougher. It's pathetic,
So-
I have to say.
So one of the instructors said, hey man, you should start a podcast because you're so adamant about this. And I started thinking, I go, you know what? I love the Warriors. I've been all about Warriors and the mindset and whatever. And these men did not have that warrior spirit.
Understood.
Because this movement that I've created, it's not about being a better man. It's about reigniting the warrior spirit in a man. That's what it's about.
I love it.
Because that drive, that sense of will, right? It wasn't there. So I started the podcast talking about that, and that's pretty much how the podcast grew. Then I said, we need to go bigger. We need to develop a program. We need to develop something that men could challenge themselves and reignite that warrior spirit in their soul.
Amazing.
So
You're ahead of your time. You're a gentleman that's ahead of your time.
Well, we, I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but I'll tell you
A
that.
few weeks.
So I can probably say that now. We would already. We have something pretty big lined up here this weekend. This week, we're going to be part of a very big documentary for Netflix, and they're going to be filming and doing all that because we have a Crucible starting on Monday, and that's a big deal. And I haven't even told that to anybody yet. So that's a big deal. I mean, that's like they came to us,
Right.
40 out of 47 man camps throughout the world.
Okay.
They came to us number one, and we are rated number one, and they wanted to come to us. So
You're hearing this first, everybody.
So
The Man of War exploding to the screen. That's
so
great,
we
bro.
so we were like so excited, man. I was
can't
like,
even.
wow, I can't believe how from taking it from a concept to where it is now. So 3 years before I retired, I started building this. And I started building it and building it and building it, and it just started to grow and started to grow and started to grow, and the momentum was there. And I realized that, I couldn't do what I was doing as a cop anymore and give it my all, my 100%. My head wasn't there.
You had, you took a journey, and at certain points in your journey, you had realizations and you pivoted. And it's amazing. It's a great story, bro. I mean, and whether you know it or not, you developed a certain skill sets from Wall Street, learning how to move people, how to persuade people, how to make presentations, to learning the streets. I hate to say it, seeing the weakness of man, like firsthand, and the people that peddle that shit. And so now you have all this diverse training, and you're able to do what you were meant to do from the beginning.
Yeah, it's a
You're trained
challenge.
to be a warrior since you're 12 years old. Now you're trying to teach other men, what was like sort of freely given to you in an odd way.
It's a challenge, very, very heavy challenge. People think that they can just start a program and that people are going to come, and it's going to be a wake-up call, right? because there's so many intricacies, because men in our world right now are so weak. Men in our world are just so soft. So many men, there's that 1%, right? Like you, like myself, there's that 1%, which are go-getters, are driven men, that those are going to be the fighters. But this other world of soft men who are whiners, complainers, second guessers, constantly just weak across all fronts of their lives. Those men, they need to really take a good look at themselves, because when the shit hits the fan, they're going to need to step up their game, because if not, they're going to lose their families. They're going to lose their businesses, because there's always wolves out there prowling.
Always.
And when you get soft, that's when you're going to get attacked.
That's when they come.
That's when Murphy is going to start, reaching his head out,
100%.
And saying, "Hey, I'm coming for you." So I don't understand why because we get tremendous backlash from men. Tremendous backlash.
Who do you do?
Oh, yeah. What? I would say our comments and people hating on our program.
What?
They hate. Oh.
Not people that have taken your program.
No.
You're talking about
people that
sitting
see
in their chairs, 400 pounds in their mother's basements.
Yeah, that's not for real. Look at these guys. They're scams. They're like trying to make man, blah, 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 blah. But, it's just that weak mentality. And then you start realizing that
You don't have any drag shows at these events?
yeah, no,
Keith
no,
doesn't come
no
wear,
purple.
Doesn't wear a nice little spring dress?
no purple.
No?
But I'll tell you one thing that I find amazing, and this is where we have a little bit of a problem. Our highest dropout rate comes because we got a 40% dropout rate. 4 out of 10 men that go through our program will drop out. Our highest dropout rate comes from veterans, from ex-soldiers.
Wow.
I don't mean just, guys, admin guys. I'm talking about soldiers who went to war, who went, into the deep hells, Don't get me wrong. We have a lot of veterans in our brotherhood. We have a beautiful brotherhood of great men that are. But the problem here is this: once a lot of these men leave the military, they get complacent, they get mediocre, and then they start resting on their laurels. Yeah. They say, "Well, I've already done that. I've already whatever." So they don't prepare up for the program. They don't realize that this program is hard as hell. It's difficult. It's going to challenge you no matter what you've done, where you've been, and what you think you can accomplish.
Who you are.
Doesn't matter.
It's designed for that.
It's going to break you.
It's designed for
That's
that.
right. We've had guys like Spartan runners, 5, Ironman athletes.
Right.
I mean, all of them have dropped out.
It's all here.
Right.
It's all a mental game.
Right. So we get a lot of veterans sometimes saying, "Well, we've already been there and done that, and go to the military," or but they don't realize that our program has nothing to do with that. We use elements from the warrior cultures of old, and we bring these elements and we break men down and give them the opportunity to rise up.
I want to get to this because I had the advantage of being at your place, seeing a lot of the photographs on the wall, et cetera, and we talked about a lot of these things. So I want to just roll the clock back. You're still a cop. You're on these task forces, right? You undercover. You went into places like Riviera Beach and pretended to buy drugs and sell drugs and all these different things. Yeah. You've been in some hairy situations. I can't even imagine. That's, very few things give me pause, but that would scare me. Because I'm not a great liar, and someone would kill me.
Yeah, it's been some tough things.
But that you start this man of war. What is that? Explain that to the audience, because I know, but I want to make sure that we're crystal clear. And
we are, first of all, Men of War is a movement.
It's a movement.
Okay? And it comes from Exodus 15.3, right? The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name.
Yep.
That's what we go by. That's what inspired me. So it's not a soldier or a police officer. It has nothing to do with that.
None of that.
It has to do with the core of a man, right? We are always at war. We are in either spiritual warfare, physical warfare, mental warfare. We're constant. That's life is
That's
war.
life.
Right. So man of war is a man who is constantly at war, but is able to win. Right. It's able to win out. Now, from a perspective of a program, what we teach is discipline. We live by a code of honor. Like the old warriors, right? You look at the samurai that had Bushido, for example.
Correct.
Okay. We have a code, an actual physical code that we live by within our brotherhood,
It's in
within
writing.
our moral society. Yes.
And so the people in this fellowship, this community, they know what this code is.
There's a code. And it's not just about reading it, it's about living it.
Living it.
That's right. And it's all about honor. It's about being a man of action, a man who doesn't sit there, whine and complain, but actually is an executor, will execute at the highest of levels, a man who serves for a higher purpose, a man who is physically and mentally ready for battle every day, a man who will be able to lead his family, a man who goes out there and serves, right, and gives of himself. So in the end...
Now, hold on. It could be any man, right? A man can apply to be in the man of war, right?
A man could be applied, but he's not necessarily going to be selected. We look for very specific criteria on the type of man, because remember, once you graduate from the man of war crucible, which is the 4-day rite of passage
in the middle of the jungle,
in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
That's right.
I've seen.
And we've expanded it.
We call that the crucible.
That's right. And we have gone. We've done it in Mexico. We've done it in
Costa Rica.
We're doing it in El Salvador, Guatemala. So, these places have all been new to us, but we've expanded now into the Latin America market. We have other expansions that are coming now with it. But here in the United States, we get men 23 miles deep into the woods, into the middle of nowhere. And we are there for
how many
days on end? How many men?
In what you call it a crucible, right?
Yeah.
This is like a graduating thing. You have to go through this.
Yeah.
Like Hell Week in the SEALs, something to that effect.
It's very difficult.
Similar.
Yes.
And how many men will be part of this? Typically,
usually we get about between 18 and 30
that now have gone through the program, have stayed with the program. Mm-hmm. These are paying clients, right? Mm-hmm. And they are now going for their crucible, this 4-day test,
yes,
literally in the jungle.
That's right.
Okay, so
I'm
excited, but I want to know. So what do you get when you go in the jungle? What supplies do you have?
Wow.
Do I get a knife so I can kill some food?
When we go into the woods, it's all about. It's not just so it's not a survival camp.
Okay.
So it's not like, hey, live off the land.
Okay.
It's not really
so
like.
So you
that.
have fire and
we have
food. You provide food.
Yeah. We actually, there's a cafeteria there that we sit.
Set up.
So it's more about taking the men away from.
I get it.
From
no
the,
phones,
from the
no
world.
TV,
Right.
No wives, no girlfriends.
So we have different training avenues.
You don't have like an open bar.
Open bar and TV, or you got a little, woman with a thong walking with serving some.
Thongs are preferred.
So, look, it's so deep that what we do in there, we give them confidence challenges. We work a lot in different mud pits. We work in the gauntlet. We work in the in the creek area where there's a lot of water. Very, very hard techniques. We give them a tremendous amount of
insects everywhere, right? You're in the jungle, for real.
All over.
You sleep in tents or
no,
bags?
They have cabins. They have cabins, but it's more of a room with beds,
Okay, I get it. I just wonder how earthy it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's earthy. I mean, it's not like primal earthy where you're
right.
Cooking.
You're not Rambo.
Right.
But you're Rambo-esque.
Right. So you're getting...
And you got all kinds of different guys, right? Teachers and accountants, right?
All
chiropractors, all different people. All different walks of life.
And we're doing this. We're throwing left and right.
This is not for women. This is strictly for men.
For men only.
Okay. Now, what about trans? Do we accept... No?
We do not. No.
No trans?
No. You have to be a full-fledged dude to be part of this program.
Okay. Penis required.
Penis required.
This is how crazy things are today.
Yeah. Penis required.
This is how crazy.
Yeah.
You have athletes
We're not gonna check
winning
it, but
gold
we'll
medals
take
in
your word
women's
for it.
sports, and they have a penis.
Yes.
I said, I don't understand what happened.
That's an actual, yes.
Right, how this worked out this way. Like,
Yeah.
I think I went crazy. You know what I mean? It's like the world went crazy. And then people are telling me that, Dad, you don't get it, Dad.
Yeah.
You don't get it. I don't get it. That person is sitting on the podium in women's sports, and she has a penis. What am I missing? What part of I don't get it am I missing? It's some things are so basic.
Like we just said, mental health a little bit.
Mental health. They're living
There's
in
people
some
that are
sexual
just
fantasies.
yeah, they're
That's what it
just
is.
out there. Yeah.
They're taking your rights away, but they're giving you the right to chop off your penis and grow breasts and disembowel your kids under the guise of freedom,
Yeah.
democracy. It's a lie.
That's exactly.
It's a distraction
That's exactly
from what
it.
they're really doing.
That's exactly
Yeah.
it.
So keep going. I want to hear more about this. I love
So
it.
the program is very deep. I mean, we go into so
People
many.
are paying like $10,000, right?
Yeah, it's a little less than that, but yeah, it's right up there.
Yeah.
And I think it's extremely cheap, to be honest
If
with you. That
you're
this is
kidding me,
what
to become a man, a
what-
warrior,
what you get from here
You're
is
giving it
something.
away.
Yeah, yeah. What you get from here is something that you will carry with you for the rest of your life.
well, you should, hopefully.
Well, let's just say
Right.
that most men, I believe, will remember this in a way that it'll be so deeply embedded in their
It's a
soul.
blessing. It's like you put your imprimatur on
And
them.
besides the brothers that you meet there, they're
Right.
your friends
Now,
forever.
you have been doing this for how many years?
Going to be 8 now.
So you have like a brotherhood probably of 1,000 men more.
No, a little bit less than that. But our
Okay.
brotherhood, we're very selective. So we don't just throw people in there.
No, I get it.
We don't. We have a few hundred guys that are solid, that are part of it, that are thriving, that want to level up their life, want to
love
level
it.
up their game.
What are the age ranges?
28 to about 58.
Right.
But there's guys that we have that are 64, 65.
I'd
and
be in the
there's-
senior tour. I'd have to get.
Actually, we have a guy that's 70 coming up.
Oh, my God. All right, you got me.
Yeah. So
That's great.
yeah. So these guys, look, it's how bad they want it and how bad they want those changes. And so what we love to see is a man here and then how he comes out of the crucible. It's like two different people.
Yeah.
There's
I
a
get
sense of confidence, a sense of power.
A sense of belonging too. Of belonging. You belong to. There's so much strength in being around like-minded people.
Yeah.
I
I
get
agree.
comfort from that.
I agree.
I get comfort just from you sitting here and sharing this with me.
Thank you.
Because
Likewise.
I'm deeply concerned about what's going on. I mean, I never thought I'd see some of this in my lifetime
Yeah.
because I am a warrior, and that's how I live my life every day. Every day is a battle. But I don't
there's
know
a
where
way
that-
out, though,
I don't
Ross,
know where
that
that died. I don't know where that died. But young men don't have that understanding.
Yeah. But there's a way out. There's a way out. I mean, if men could go back to their DNA, to their roots, and say, okay, where did I lose sight? And it starts off with the simple little things, like learning how to open a door for a lady,
Correct.
open the car door, being a man of your word, actually learning how to dress for a change, carrying yourself in a certain way, having the confidence to surround yourself with men who are ahead of you so you could learn and get mentorship. Little things like that.
When I was about 6 years old, 6 or 7, my mother called me down from my room and said, "It's time that you grow up." I'm like 6 or 7.
Wow.
She goes, "You're going to start making your lunch every day." Like I had a lunchbox. I was like in first
She gave
grade.
you the responsibility.
And she left $1 in a bag, a brown paper bag, and the bread and the bologna and the cheese and the ham. I like ham and cheese as a thing. Occasionally I got roast beef, big deal. Little turkey and Swiss.
People, by the way, don't understand bologna and cheese
I know.
nowadays.
I
I
get it.
grew up with that, man.
Me too. Listen, I was just in prison, and that's basically the fare.
Yeah. I
You're
bet.
getting
I bet.
bologna sandwiches, and sometimes the bologna is green. I mean, But I started making my own lunch, right? And that went on for like my first grade or kindergarten, whatever it was early in my life.
Yeah.
And then by second grade, I had to learn how to do my own laundry.
Wow.
Really?
Your mom put you to the test. She said, you got
That's
to learn.
That's who my family is. Like that's
amazing.
my brother went through that too, and I tell this story that by the time one day I'm in college, I get to SUNY Albany my freshman year, and I see this advertisement, university cleaners, like they come to the dorm, and you could do laundry by the pound. I said, what does that mean? Well, you got to pay.
Oh,
I said, what do you mean? Somebody else does your laundry? I didn't know.
wow.
They said, yeah. I never did a laundry again until like now. In my whole life, the most important thing for me was to get money so I don't have to do my laundry.
Yeah.
And I don't want to cook and make food anymore.
Yeah.
Because I had that, and that was my drive to be able to afford to have laundry done by the pound at and I never once did a laundry. I lived in New York City for 30 years, 35 years. I lived in those luxury buildings and all that, and I had a washer jar in my apartment. I never did a laundry. It's like I have a thing. If I have $5 in my pocket to eat or do laundry, I'm paying for the laundry. I'll figure out how to eat. You know what I mean? I'm serious. It's one of those things you grow up with, like a little shtick. You know, that's my thing. Like,
yeah.
And I married a woman that likes to do 3 laundries a day. She's fascinated by the fact that, you could just do laundry. It's so easy.
You can't get better than that.
Right. It's
Clean
really
clothes all the
interesting
time.
how it goes,
You know?
She goes, unbelievable. She goes, I like fabric softener and I like a certain smell and, certain things. And so you're training men. You're trying to, unleash the warrior spirit, right? We all have it in us, I think.
Oh, yeah.
God's in us.
Yeah.
He gave us the spark. Yeah. But you're igniting it for men.
I would say 95% of the men really have it inside of them, and they just don't know how to tap into it.
They don't know.
They don't know. It's so suppressed and so hidden in there.
The shame involved,
that
all of
it.
You take that all away from them, right? Your program is not just the Crucible. Now, your program leads up to that.
Oh, yeah.
So explain to the audience, we have somebody that wants to become more of a man.
Well, basically,
it applies to you.
Yeah,
man of war.
You apply.
2 R's, right?
Well, that's my the name of the company. It's Men of War Crucible. MEN of War Crucible.
No 2 R's.
No, that's just my Instagram is.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
With 2 R's. Well, the dude with 1 R,
right.
their actual one, turned around and wanted to sell me that for $35,000.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? Keep the other R.
Right.
I'll add the other
100%.
R.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? So
I had to buy skycapital.com from the Skycaps.
So
some guy in the mafia owns that.
Crazy.
He goes, give me $2 million.
Crazy.
I said, what? He goes, we represent the union. Skycaps. You ever go to the airport? That's who skycaps.com is. And I'm like, you're a real gangster. He goes, yeah, I'm a union organizer for a local union from Staten Island. It's very funny.
Crazy.
It's a very funny story, but
crazy.
Yeah. So go ahead. So you sign up. I send you 5, 8, 10 grand, whatever it is.
Well, first it's not sign up. Basically, you go through the process.
An interview type process.
Interview, right? You submit an application. You go through the interview process. If we feel that you are a good fit for us,
real candidate,
okay,
right.
like a candidate. Then we'll extend you, an authorization to go through the process and attend, one of the upcoming groups. Once you do that, of course, we make sure that, we do a little background, make sure that you're a legit, person. You're not some terrorist, okay? Then you go in and you start training virtually. We set you up in your group, right? Because we have about 200 men that are waiting to go. And they're all training together, like in different groups now.
I love it.
So we always have about 180 to 200 men on the pipeline.
And that took years to accomplish.
Oh gosh!
Listen, that doesn't happen overnight. This is a success story. This is a man at the top of the game.
Yeah, there's a lot. Believe me, there's a lot
understand.
of stuff that needs to happen for that. So once they complete their training, then they're ready to be deployed, and they go in for the 4 days. If they do graduate,
what's the time? How much time is it?
Usually, it depends. People come in at different times,
right.
But we try to. We are full usually about 4 to 6 months ahead of the program.
I got you.
Ahead of the Crucible, we're full. Like right now, we're full for all of 2025 and into 2026. Okay, so we try to give everybody at least 2 to 3 month buffer from the time they get accepted to the time that they get deployed.
Right, because they have to
train and
learn to get the code, the business,
yeah,
everything.
they have to be ready.
Right.
Once you go boots on ground and you go through the process, there's a 40% dropout rate, which means that 4 out of 10 guys are going to drop. Those who remain standing, then what we do is those men are accepted into the Men of War Society. The Men of War Society is our brotherhood. It's a fire-breathing dragon, literally. I mean, we have a very powerful community. We have events. They're divided into territories. A lot. It's a beautiful brotherhood of men who love each other and who support each other, but will hold each other accountable.
It's an organized fellowship.
Very much.
Very structured, very organized.
Very,
correct?
very
And you
organized.
oversee it.
Yes, I oversee it along with my leadership team, and
Right.
then we have a team of coaches. So there's a hierarchy to
Correct.
everything, but
Right.
we keep it where it's highly structured.
It's a
yes.
real structure.
Yes.
I love it, bro. That's great news.
Yeah.
It's really, somebody's got to be doing something. Somebody's training the terrorists. They get terrorist camps all over the world, right? I mean, it's so crazy.
Yeah, so these guys that go through, they'll learn all practical self-defense, knife fighting. They'll understand active shooters. We give them tremendous challenges and team-building exercises. So much that they get from here. We put them in all precarious positions and they give them an opportunity to rise, have them think on their feet. The most powerful thing of this crucible is the ability that we're going to break you down, but it's the ability for them to rise up from that.
Right.
That is the gold right there.
To adapt. To adapt and grow. I love it. It's really, it's a brilliant program. I wish I thought of it. It's
Thank you.
It's brilliant brotherhood.
It's a big deal for us.
It's your life's, the culmination of your life's work in an odd way, really.
Oh yeah, and I tell people, look, this is part of Men of War is a very big. It's not. That's just part of. That's about 20% of our business model. I do a lot of speaking engagements. We do business consulting because we focus on building cultures, right? Culture development. So that's that's our bread and butter. But this right here, what we're talking about, that is the thing that's closest to my heart.
And you go to all these crucibles, right?
Most of them. I go to all of them, but usually I don't go there full time. I go there like maybe one or 2 days towards the end, to meet everybody.
Not in the beginning. In the beginning, you led everything, I'm sure, right? And now you...
No, at the beginning, I was there every single day. For the first 20 of them, I was there every single day.
Drilling guys, probably, yeah. And now you,
now I fly in for a couple of days. Like this one here coming up, I'll be there every single day.
Parachute in, and then I'm playing. Night vision goggles, I love it.
Yeah.
Living in the jungles, a lot of crazy things go on. It's...
Yeah, these guys are prepared though. When they come out of there, they're prepared.
I'm sure.
They're no joke. A lot of people say, "Well, you can't do anything in 4 days." Well, it's not the 4 days. It's everything that is led up to those 4 days.
It's the mindset.
Right. The 4 days is just the testing grounds.
Yeah, proving grounds.
That's it, the proving grounds.
More like a proving ground, right? Because you got to come through it now. You probably absorbed a lot of principles, a lot of knowledge, a lot of input, a lot of data, and now you're out there proving it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's one thing to act like a man, think like a man, speak like a man. It's something different to actually be a man.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So. It takes, for some people it does come naturally because of the culmination of their life, but some people have to, like you say, they have to be broken down and they have to sort of rise up as a different type of person.
I just think that a man has to be able to go through difficult things in his life for him to be a strong man.
I agree.
Like I just don't think that a man could be a strong man if he hasn't faced hard challenges. Yeah, I don't believe that.
That makes me a pretty tough guy.
Yeah.
I'm just a joke. I've been through some hell, and a lot of guys say to me, "How the hell are you doing this? How are you doing this? What you're doing?" Like. A lot of men that I met along the way, tough guys. Some of them are tough guys, and not all of them were bad guys. They just made mistakes or they got caught up, and some of them, frankly, didn't do anything wrong. but that's what it is. The system accepts a
No, but
10% error.
you look, whatever you're doing, you gotta keep on doing it because you look great. You have a lot of energy about you. You're on point.
Thank
You're a
you.
guy that's actually making. I say this all the time. There's three types of people out there. People who watch things happen, people who make things happen, and people who wonder what the fuck happened.
What the fuck? Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and you're one of those guys that is actually, hey,
we're going to do something
you're going to do it.
Really something amazing, something that you will appreciate instantly, and you'll say, wow. Just like that's how I feel about the Men of War. I feel like, wow. You know what I mean? Like it's a brilliant, brilliant idea, and it's good. You see, I've been in, I was in the business much longer, obviously, and I understand win-win, that concept. Mm-hmm. Where you can win and somebody doesn't have to lose. People don't understand that. They always think like in a stock trade, if I win, that means somebody had to lose.
That's right.
And that's a misnomer. That means they really haven't given it a lot of thought. I understand how you can come to that conclusion quickly when you don't have a lot of facts, experience, understanding. But it's like if you had a candle. And I said, I got a candle. Could I get a light? You're sharing that light with me. Mm-hmm. You're not losing anything. And in fact, we're gaining more light.
That's right.
It's win-win. And so when, at this point in my life and in my experience in the financial world, the business world, et cetera, I'm only interested in a win-win print. That's how I think.
That's a great, very harmonious.
Yes, it's got to be.
I
See,
like that.
It's got to be that way. It can't be I make and you lose. Ha ha. Can't be.
Yeah.
Can't be you win and I lose. It's not right. I know better. Let's just say it like that. Now I understand the doing, the realizing what I'm sharing is much more difficult. It's much easier to be in a game where I can win and you lose. I got the better of you. That's not acceptable to me anymore in life.
Yeah.
And so I have been liberating on something. I'm now in the influencer space, online education. Certainly not, like I'm doing this for 6-7 months now. And you're doing this for so many years already. You're very established. You're very well thought of, et cetera. And but I have cracked the code. And so I have created an opportunity for win-win. I'll share that with you at
Love that.
at the
Yes.
appropriate time.
Yeah.
You will be very excited. And I just sitting here thinking, listening to you share about your brotherhood, and I think about how perfectly this meshes into your world. Nobody loses. It costs nobody a thing.
That's great.
Everybody wins. When you can present an opportunity like that, it's a good thing.
Sounds like you're excited about it.
I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
And I go to people like you. I have a lot of very smart guys around me. I put together a team. I'm building a media company called Raw Media. Mm-hmm. The site will be done soon. And the things that I've come up with came as a result of this process.
Right.
And it's an industry that I'm not familiar with. I wasn't familiar with. And so I had to actually go into the business. So I'm actually a real podcast. I have a real podcast. I got about 60 podcasts I've done in a short period of time. Been on some, had many, virtual, real, in studio, et cetera, on the road. Yeah. So I have experience now as a podcast, and I'm accepted by people in the industry now as having like a respectable podcast.
Good.
People are like reaching out to me and saying, I would love to be in your podcast. We've had movie stars and all these different things. But my background is securities, the capital markets. Mm-hmm. And I figured out a way to merge the two seamlessly.
Wow, okay.
To everybody's benefit.
Very
everybody's
cool. I would love to hear about it.
Yeah, it's really, for someone like yourself with your background, you're going to, but the NDA is pretty tight because
it's intriguing.
You would run with it. You don't need me.
Of course.
Point. But I love what you do because it's also win-win. it's all what you're doing is win-win. You're making a man a better man.
All about that, yes.
That's what it's about.
Yep.
And that adds value to the world. You're doing God's work. You know,
Just lighting fire with fire, like you said. You know,
everybody wins. Exactly right. And you know what? God forbid. God forbid there's a time, a true problem. Your men will be more prepared than mostly anybody. If you think about it like that.
I want to believe that, yes.
In the God forbid where the Chinese come in or some craziness goes on.
Yeah, like I say many
Mayhem.
times, if something ever were to go wrong, I mean, I want guys that have been through the crucible, guys who are at that level, to be walking in through a door with me, or
Correct. At least you know they're behind you. They're standing behind you.
Yeah, man, that's a big deal.
There's a lot of comfort in that, and I think that's like God's work.
Yes,
I really do. I believe that.
Yes.
As it says in Scripture, God commands, I forget who, but pray for your enemies before you kill them.
Yes.
Before you behead them.
I'm always.
He's a loving God.
Yeah.
Bless them before you send them up to me.
Yes.
It's a very interesting thing, but you're very Old Testamentish. You know what I mean? You're very much that kind of a guy.
I am. I think
and
so.
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, what am I missing? What am I missing from Rafa Conde? We've covered your story pretty good, I think.
Yeah, we've gone down
But the Men of War, where are you found? How do people find you? Why did I not know?
Men of War, it's MEN, menofwarcrucible.com. And you could, go to Man of War, manofwar.us, manofwar.us, and you could find all our programs there, pretty much everything. Or I have a personal website also, Rafa J. Conde, RAFAJCONDE.com, RafaJConde.com. And, you can...
Facebook, social media?
All of it. Facebook.
Under what names?
Instagram is Man of War with 2 R's.
Right.
And then you have Facebook will be under Man of War also. And then you have, we have a TikTok under my name, Rafa J. Conde. And then we have a LinkedIn also, Rafa J. Conde. And I don't know, what else do we have?
LinkedIn, TikTok, all the Instagrams, I believe.
Do you guys run ads at all? Paid ads, that kind of thing?
Millions of dollars.
You spend millions of dollars on ads? How come I don't see anything? Am I not considered a real man by the algorithm? I'm upset now.
Maybe you're the guy that, ideally, could be. You know what? Could be the target, the age.
I'm
we
so
target
old.
to 50,
Right.
59.
Right, so I'm too old.
But you know what?
Damn.
We also have the Odyssey program.
Oh yeah, we also have the Odyssey program, which is a father and son program. We put fathers and son through a 2-day crucible.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Wow,
is that great?
Yeah, we've.
Of course, I'm a daddy father.
Yeah.
I'm a daughter father.
Yeah.
But that's great, the Odyssey program.
Yeah.
Okay, so you spend millions of dollars advertising. And I was in your office and your studio's beautiful, great people. And I see you've been all the networks. You've been covered by television.
Oh yeah, we've been on a lot of channels, and but in the end, it goes like this.
Did you ever take any heat from the woke people?
All the time.
I mean, let's face it. You have DEI right in your program, right? Is that right?
I'd get criticism
pronouns
from
and all.
everybody.
What are your pronouns? Like fuck you.
Yeah.
Those are my pronouns.
Yeah.
I never heard of such a thing. I still don't know what it means.
I don't either. I get confused. It's a very confusing.
Guy says to me, "What's my gender?" I said, "What are my choices?" Turns me to paper. There's like 9 choices. I'm like, just put down non-binary. I have no idea what it means, but it's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm non-binary. Yeah. What does that mean? I don't know.
I don't even know what that is. Like even now, I don't even understand.
So
what
I
that
was
is.
in the system, and when I was being admitted to after I left prison, they took me to the halfway house. And the guy's filling, they ask you pages, and he looks at me and goes, "So I got to ask you what your sex is." And I'm sitting with a guy like you, has facial hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this a trick? And he's like, no, Mr. Mandell, I can't even make a joke. He says, that's how serious it is. We spend so many hours every month training. I'm like, stop it. And he shows me, there's like 8 boxes to check, and then there's one that's other. But of course, at the very end, it says when you were born. what was your biological sex? I mean, what are we playing? Fantasy games here? I mean, what's my gender?
It's
bro. I'm like, bro.
Confusing. Yeah.
I mean, stop. I mean, but he won't even joke. He won't even smile. And I'm like, stop pushing because I want to have fun. Like I'm out of prison, and this is what our government has come to. These men are spending hours training on pronouns and how to talk to somebody about their sex. This is what we're worried about right now. Not the fact that the Chinese have, twice as many ships as we have in the Navy right now, et cetera.
Yeah.
You understand the point. Why they have drag shows in the Pentagon. What the hell? So you are truly a man's man. Some people would say that's offensive. That's bad. You are a high-value man. I love what you do, and I'm so excited that I had you here today.
Well, thank you, man.
You are a special, special cat, and you're doing great things, and we need more men like you.
And like you.
Thank you. In government, in the military, in the police force. I mean, we need people that can handle themselves and that can keep us safe.
Yes.
I mean, security is the first and most important thing of what government should be.
Yes.
Right?
I agree.
I should feel safe. Meanwhile, you can't even walk around certain places anymore in certain cities. Free Palestine, rapists and murderers they're celebrating. I don't even know what they're doing because they've all been getting paid. They've been indoctrinated. And our enemies have pierced us. Our universities have been...
those are the first. Yeah.
And the height of our universities, Harvard, the oldest, the best, all this and that, is a wreck.
Yeah, I agree.
Because of some agenda that's, in my opinion, is being scripted by our enemies, near and far.
Yeah.
But for today, we have men like Rafa Conde, who's truly a man of war. The Men of War Crucible.com. Men of War, 2 R's on Instagram. Reach out to this guy. Find out if you are a man. Cost bupkis, a few pennies to become the man that you should be. Thank you so much for coming today, bro.
An honor. Thank you.